This is the Sales Gravy Podcast. I'm Jeb Blount, best-selling author of Fanatical Prospecting, Sales EQ, Objections, and Inked, and I'm here to help you fill up your pipeline, close bigger deals, and rock your commission check. All right, we're back with part 4 of my conversation with Jeff Kahn about sleep and sales performance, and I hope you're enjoying this series. It was a pleasure to spend time with Jeff, and the things that he taught me during our conversation and afterwards have really made an impact on my life. On this episode, Jeff and I explore sleep procrastination, which is my problem, insomnia, which impacts so many people, and we talk about the 2 laws of sleep that you'll want to pay attention to because when you learn these 2 laws, it can change your performance immediately. Before we get started, though, I want you to go to Amazon and download my brand new book, Virtual Selling on Kindle. It will help you improve your sales immediately. It will make you more efficient, it will make you more money, and it'll allow you to get in touch with a lot more people. I'm going to teach you everything that you need to know to sell through virtual channels, including the phone, video, which is a big deal these days, the telephone, direct messaging, social media, everything. So go right now and get Virtual Selling. I promise you, you're going to love this book, and this book is going to help you make more money. Now, here's my conversation with Jeff Kahn about sleep and sales performance. I'm sure that what people really want to know is, okay, how do I get more sleep? So let me give you my problem, and then we can, I'm sure there's a million different problems. My problem with sleep is not that I can't go to sleep, because I can go to sleep. And I can stay asleep for as long as I want to. I could literally sleep 12 hours a day without even blinking. I have no problem with that. But I can sleep forever. I don't want to go to sleep. I hate my day to end. And I'll stay up till 4 o'clock in the morning. I'll stay up and stay up and stay up and stay up and stay up. I will hold my eyes open to keep staying up because it's not that I don't want to go to sleep, but I just will. And I don't, and that's a scheduling problem. It's all kinds of issues. Some of it's just because I get so much done during my day that I sometimes just need some downtime. But but there's also people who can't sleep, like they just can't go to sleep, and there are people who can't stay asleep. Like I'm telling you that my house could be burning down and you couldn't wake me up. That's how hard I sleep. So there are people who have babies at home, young children. There are people who I do remember when I started my company, I was basically working 2 jobs. So I was getting 2-3 hours of sleep every single night because it was the only way I could survive. I don't really remember. There's 3 or 4 years of my life I don't even remember. I have no memory of them at all. Yeah. So people have all kinds of reasons why they can't sleep or won't sleep, in my case. Through what do you do for example, teaching people? And maybe a good thing to do is just to get away from sales is just talk about athletes. So, college athletes that you help perform at a really high level, what do you go through in helping them, whatever their issue is with sleep, to get focused on getting more sleep and organize their day that way?
Yeah, no, it's a great, so what do you do about all this? I think, if you're listening to this, you've probably already heard some of the benefits, and we're talking about them in the context of how to sell and live at, much higher level. And so there's really 2 big ideas. I call these the laws for sleep. And it's not that I discovered these, but scientists have, fortunately for us. And the 2 laws basically go like this. And the reason these laws are important is that if you improve on any one of these dimensions, you will get the benefits. If you don't move any one of these laws, then you won't get the benefits. And so, you've heard about REM sleep and sleep quality and new mattresses and pillows and all this sort of stuff that's out there. Taking a hot shower before bed, earplugs, what do I do? So scientists have found these 2 laws. The first law that you need to know about is called sleep debt, right? Sleep debt is the amount of sleep that you owe your body. The way that it works is as follows. So everyone has a genetically determined amount of sleep they need. If you've heard 8 hours, that's because the average in the population is 8 hours and 10 minutes. But that's like saying the average height for males is 5'10". Everyone's obviously a different height than 5'10". So good chances that you don't need 8 hours and 10 minutes. You need something else. And most of us need between 7.5 and 9. So we're somewhere within there. And if you're in that range, that's totally normal. And there's actually folks outside of that range, and even that's normal. But everyone has a different amount they need. Now, if you don't get that need, if you don't meet it every night, you build up sleep debt. Now, the good news of sleep debt is that you can't just build it up infinitely in terms of what affects your performance that day. So from our studies, it shows that about the last 14 days really matter, with the most recent days mattering more. And, so you're not just building up infinite sleep debt. And so when it comes to how am I going to feel today? How am I going to sell today? How am I going to perform today? What about my emotional brain? All the things we just talked about, it comes down to the single most important measure, which is how much sleep debt do you have? Now, there's sort of two sides of this, like you pointed out, sort of good side, bad side. The good side is, if you've been sleeping really well, and then Jeb, you're up late at night because, you're thinking and your mind's just going off, you got a big keynote tomorrow or a big sales meeting, not a big problem because your sleep debt isn't high. You've been working on it over time. But the opposite's also true. If you've been getting 4, 5, 6 hours a night, way less than you need, and then all of a sudden you get 1 9-hour night, kudos, you're going to feel a little bit better, but it's not really going to move the needle on your performance that day. And so that's how to think about this. Is you need to actually expand your view that this is the last 14 days is going to matter for how you perform today. We actually have the largest study right now in publication on looking at that single metric, predicting revenue performance, NFL player game performance, 3-point percentage in the NBA, obviously how you feel. So that is the most important metric, and not how you slept last night or your sleep quality or your REM or anything like that. So that's law one. Okay, so that should hopefully eliminate a lot of things that you don't need to do, or eliminate a lot of things that you don't need to be thinking about. The second law, and then Jeb, we can get into kind of specifics here, but the second law that's really important to realize is that you actually have a clock in your head. Okay, there's a part in the brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, and it holds essentially a pacemaker for all of the cells in your body and all of the organ systems. And it tells those things when to be active and alert and when not to be. And so as a result of that, you actually have these performance and emotion, I would say performance, so that's emotional, physical, and mental peaks. You have 2 of them throughout your day. And you also have dips where you're actually not as performant, where you're in more of a recovery state. You've got one in the early afternoon, and then obviously one at night. And so really that's about, well, how do I structure my day so that I've got my really important high demand work in those peaks, and my lower demand administrative tasks, things that don't require me to be fully 100% on during my dips. And so that's really then important to start restructuring your day based on that. But Jeb, it'll also help answer, how do you, get to bed when you don't want to? And we can talk deeply about that. But if you follow those 2 laws, that it's your sleep debt and that it's your circadian rhythms, and to be aware of that, that's going to be the first step to improving and actually, getting the type of outcomes that you want, that we've all heard about.
I love that. It just takes me back to when I'm traveling sometimes, and I'm traveling, like last year I did 310 nights on the road, and I'm going from
Wow.
place to place to place to place to place. And I'll hit Saturday, and then there's days where I'll sleep 16 hours on a Saturday and I'm catching up. And I feel
Yep.
stupid because I just burned my entire Saturday. But I did 4 hours, 4 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours, 5 hours, 4 hours, and then banging through airports. And even worse when I'm traveling overseas, where I'll spend, there was a time in this fall, I spent 24 hours in a row on an airplane, and I crossed, I don't know, 18 time
Wow.
zones. And then,
Wow.
hopped off an airplane, did 100 push-ups and went and gave a keynote. And then the next day, I didn't even know who I was. So I get that. And I get the circadian rhythm. One of the things that I teach salespeople is front load your day with the most impactful things that you can do, the hardest things you can do, which is for salespeople, prospecting and dealing with rejection. To do that
Yep.
first, because
Yep.
you're typically, when you come in the morning, whatever your morning looks like, that's typically the place where your ability to deal with people making you feel the worst that you can possibly feel, which is rejecting you, is a
Yeah.
lot higher than it is at the end of the day when you've
100%.
typically moved into a different place. Now, my problem is my circadian rhythm has never matched business. And I had a boss once, because I worked for a company that 6 o'clock in the morning was our time. Like, that's when everybody showed up at work, 6 a.m.
Wow.
And if you came in at 5, you were even better. Like, you were a total stud.
Yeah.
And so I've worked there for 20 years. So, 15 years, I'm coming in at 5 o'clock in the morning, and
Uh,
I hate everything. And I
yeah.
worked for this boss once, and I was explaining to him, and he goes, why are you doing that? Why don't you come in at 8 when you want to come in? And I went, I can do that. And he went, yeah, come in when it makes you feel better. And this guy was a really, really smart guy. So I forgave myself for not coming in at 5 and started, coming in at 8:30 in the morning. And I just felt a whole lot better about it. And like you said, my people like me better because I was showing up at a time when I was at my peak. I was coming in at a peak. What about people who can't sleep? What do people, because my issue is completely willpower. Like if I go to
Yeah.
bed at 9 o'clock and lay my head down, I'm going to go to sleep. I just don't want to. But there are
Yeah.
some people who just can't. Like they're listening to
Yeah.
this and they're going, "Yeah, all sounds really good," but I lay my head down and I'm staring at the ceiling, worrying about crap. And I get
Yeah.
that. Like, and I've been in that place, but I mean, it's so
We
rare
all
for me
have.
to be awake, worrying about things. But there are people who do this all the time. Like they have deep insomnia, which is why there's an entire industry about pillows, for example.
Yeah.
So how do you help them?
Yeah. So, if you are having difficulty falling asleep, there's so many different reasons. And so, what I'm about to say is certainly a generalization, but has probably the most science behind it to help. So, if you're actually in bed and it's been 20, 30 minutes, again, it doesn't need to be exact, but you're there and you're like, okay, I'm not going to fall asleep. Don't force yourself to get to sleep. Actually, what you want to do is get out of bed, go to another room, go do something relaxing that you enjoy, listen to a podcast, read a book, do something, don't go and watch, an intense movie that's going to fire you up, but just something relaxing and wait until you get tired and then go back to sleep and just repeat that. And that method is called stimulus control. And it is the sort of gold line standard for treating insomnia. Now, again, if you do have insomnia, which we can talk about more, and feel free to contact me after this if that's something you want more help with. But there are specific physicians that treat that, and they're called behavioral sleep medicine specialists. And they're really suited, and they have all the tools to be able to help you. Whereas a normal doctor has no idea how to help you. They're going to say take melatonin. Well, that won't work at all. But at least you can try. One of the best things is your bed should be for sleep only. But of course, there's so many other things you can do to help get ready for sleep. Jeb, to help you with the wind down, with the willpower aspect of it. I'd say that's probably way more common than you'd think. We call it sleep procrastination. And it's very common because your willpower is drained and you need time to decompress, and you watch another episode of Netflix and you've lost track of time and now your sleep's short. So that's actually probably the most difficult problem. And when we see, trying to figure that out, that's a lot more unknown, but we've got some interesting techniques that might be able to help with that. But yeah, it's serious if you can't sleep. And that would be the big thing to take away is don't stay in bed. Don't keep willing yourself to lay there and go to sleep. Get out of bed, do something else. When you're tired again, get back in.
I like that. I love sleep procrastination because that's exactly what I've got. Sleep procrastination. But
Yeah.
the technique of getting up and getting and just doing things, that's the one thing that I found to be like the greatest thing to do is, if I'm up, in a lot of sense, especially if I'm writing on a book, I'm working on a book project, and I'm always working on a book project, but there are moments when my brain just kicks in and like it's been super creative and it's 4:30 in the morning and I'm like, dude, you got to go to sleep.
Yeah.
And what I found is I'll just get up and I'll go sit down with my computer. Now I'll be, toast at about 11 o'clock in the morning, but I get so much good work done when my brain wakes me up or when it can't sleep or when I'm thinking about things. I just
Yep.
get up and go to work until my eyes start closing, and then I'll go back. So I think that's really powerful. And a lot of times I think it's your brain telling you that it's got something important that it needs to get out, and it's time
That
for it to do that.
Yeah, so you're 100% right about that part of it. And actually, one of the other techniques, if it is just truly that your mind is active, one of the best things you can do from a scientific perspective is actually just write that stuff down. So it could be a paper journal, it could be your phone on notes in dark mode, whatever. But just whatever is going on in your brain, try this. Basically just do a brain dump. Like whatever, don't process it, just get it out onto your notes, and all of a sudden your brain will calm down and you go back to bed. So that's another thing that you can try. Again, that doesn't help everyone, but for the folks where your mind is racing, absolutely give that a try. And the whole sort of idea behind how insomnia even develops here, Jeb, is that you're not sleeping in bed. And so what happens is, you have one of these rough nights, you are stressed out, you are thinking about something. And we've all had these nights where then we're just laying there for 2-3 hours. And what's happening is your brain is now associating the worry and the anxiety and the stress with your bed. And it's happening subconsciously. And so then what happens the next night when you want to go to sleep? Well, now your brain is like, well, that's where worry, stress, and anxiety is taking place, and you can't get sleep. And so all the best kind of gold standard insomnia techniques are all about closing off that connection, all about destroying that connection so that your bed is just about sleep. So, insomnia isn't this chemical imbalance. It's truly just this behavioral connection that we've learned. And it's about unlearning that. That's why it's behavioral sleep scientists that are the folks that treat and study this.
It makes a lot of sense. It's weird how our brains connect things with and create habits for us that don't always make a lot of sense, but the subconscious, and in fact, I don't think a lot of people recognize that so much of everything that we do is happening below consciousness that we just are not aware of how it drives our behavior. And that's really powerful. I hope this episode inspires you to go take a close look at your sleep patterns. Join me next time for the fifth and final episode in my podcast series with Jeff Kahn on sleep and sales performance. Now go right now to Amazon and pick up a copy of my brand new book, Virtual Selling. I promise you, it will be the one book that will help you make more money this year.